Up next, it's my pleasure to be joined by Michael Galbraith, Chief Digital Innovation Officer within the Department of the Navy, and Chris Whitlock, Managing Director for Deloitte Consulting today. Mike, Chris, how are you both doing?
Doing great, Billy. Thanks for having us today. And call me Mike, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah, happy to be here, Billy, and a great day. Good day to be in DC.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited for this conversation. AI is a big concept, but it's not one that's new to the DoD. But we have seen it advance in a number of ways in recent years. So let's start today's conversation describing the breadth, the sophistication, and the maturity of the AI in the military today. And Mike, how about we start with you since you have that internal perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Billy. And you're right. The Navy's been involved with AI for decades. And we have a variety of capabilities from simple automation and rules-based, knowledge-based systems to some very sophisticated machine learning and deep learning capabilities now. We've put in place an inventory of all of our big digital initiatives and a particular focus on AI, and it is literally 1,000 points of light coming together right now. So we're at an inflection point in the Navy where we need to start to mature our approaches a little bit, and we've adopted almost an M&A like process that I call it detect, collect, connect, and inject, where we detect the programs and people, begin to collect information, start to connect those dots, and then we can begin to inject a strategy and cohesion around that. So begin to consolidate some of those key approaches and find that balance where we've got local innovation yet are able to scale. So really good set of capabilities and a very I'll say a very research and scientific set of capabilities, and our ability to field across those silos and that complexity in the Navy. We struggle there a little bit. So that consolidation and that maturing approach to start leveraging economies of scale is going to be important moving forward.
That's great. So detect, collect, connect, and inject. I like that.
Yeah.
I was listening. Chris, let's hear your thoughts on.
That was a really pithy way to say that. I love that and may adopt that informally in other forums.
Well, it is trademark, Chris.
Good. Yeah, my sense, Billy, if I were looking across all the DoD, if you think we have roughly 1 million military members, and then you think about the numbers of systems of record, which you might construe in the vicinity of 10,000 or more, how prolifically deployed is AI and its affiliated capabilities, machine learning, et cetera? I would say there is, as the AI Commission shared, a tremendous amount of room for us to add capability. The breadth of the deployments, the sweep of the deployments, how many military occupational specialties does it impact today? I think there's a lot of potential for growth, and very much in line or congruent with what Mike shared. We have things in use today that are material, but there's a lot of opportunity for more sophisticated capability. And that can be in the context of enabling autonomy, or it can be in the context of what are those system of records we understand today, but improving performance, cutting decision speed, reducing the amount of toil for soldiers, Marines, airmen, sailors. I think there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of opportunity.
So in preparing for this conversation, we discussed a little bit that AI is in many ways about the convergence of different technologies. It's about that bigger connection. So Chris, I'd love to go back to you and ask you, how do we enable that convergence of different technologies under AI?
That would have been a better one to go to Mike with first, but I'm going to take a run at that. So I think one thing that's critical to recognize is AI is mission task specific and it's context dependent, meaning for a particular body of work we want to implement AI, Well, that will be in a system that is comprised of software and hardware and connected by networks. And there are a range of enabling technologies that allow AI to become real. And then I think there are processes to execute those changes, but it does not stand alone. It is something that is a part of a bigger fabric or ecosystem. And that to me is why some of these enabling capabilities are so important.
Mike, Chris set you up there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, he hit the nail on the head. It is context specific. But, you know, the real game changing, step changing capabilities of AI are introduced when you can marry that and intersect that with other technologies. You know, again, you know, as we were prepping for this, we talked about the, you know, the tactical implementations of AI. We've got sensors out in the edge in our various warfighting environments. AI alone is not going to help a lot there, but when you marry that with, you know, a 5G capability or a distributed high compute capability where you can take a trained and refined algorithm, push that to the data that's being collected to help drive unmanned capabilities, swarm capabilities, increase battle space awareness, again, make that decision space smaller for the warfighter. You bring those capabilities together, it's a real game changer. And those are the things that are exciting to me, working in DoD, and bringing just a lot of capability to the table. Again, in the Navy, we've got just tremendous pieces of AI. You know, it's the full spectrum and gambit from, you know, acoustics and other, you know, basic automation capabilities, but acoustics, image processing and recognition, just bringing all those things together is again a game changer. I can't come up with better words.
Yeah, Mike, one of the things you said there that strikes me, and Billy, I think it's reinforcing it, is the role of edge devices in this potential evolution and the role of hardware. A lot of us, especially those that are affinitized to data science and things, we think of the software portions of the equation, but the network and the hardware, Mike mentioned edge devices. You look at that warship over my shoulder, we have a number of those, dozens that are in service. Capturing data at the point of collection, edge devices can be very effective there as an insert to existing networks to enable model training. They also, edge devices and edge platforms are environments for AI to be natively developed and deployed, as with unmanned systems. But this whole issue of edge, I think, is really important. And the other is in the hardware component of the stack. You know, historically, that's been a little bit commoditized in networks. But when you look at sophistication, moving to graphical processing units for speed and accuracy, and now even neuromorphic chips, which some of the leading vendors are starting to do, big prospects for cutting required power, reducing form factors, and that opens up a lot of opportunity for AI. Back to the enablers, I think it'll create more opportunities for the services to do things effectively.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. I think that edge marrying with the AI is going to be very important. I'd love to move the conversation on to what's the best way to approach AI across the DoD. There's a lot of different thoughts on this, and really kind of boils down to a centralization of models, resources, and talents versus a decentralization. And I don't know that there's necessarily a right or wrong answer, but I'd love to open it up to this conversation. Mike, let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah, you know, again, I think it's going to be a hybrid. You know, I don't think everything's going to be centralized or everything's going to be distributed. You know, just from a governance perspective, if I leverage my industry background in large company, I've never worked in a company as large as the U.S. Navy, but you've got a global competency that's kind of broken down into those piece parts of automation or model development and data cleansing and specialties within natural language processing or other other research areas. And then those need to be tied to mission in context functionally in a company, whether it's HR, or finance, or marketing, customer service. Same is true in the Navy. In our mission areas and our TICOMs, to be able to take those capabilities and apply them. And then there's a local development capability that's got to be distributed, with hands-on, the ability to tweak and help algorithms and those capabilities out at the edge, right? So again, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be very much a hybrid capability that we put in place.
Yeah, that resonates with me a lot, the hybrid element of that for certain. And I guess from my perspective, Billy, one of the things that I think about a lot is I believe there is a role for centralized platforms that can support model training. You're seeing that in the Navy, you see it in the Joint AI Center, in the Joint Common Foundation, the Army, Air Force, each are developing centralized platforms to support training. But a model ultimately has to be deployed. And a lot of these, for the systems to operate at near machine speeds, and by 2025, we make this progress, that means they've got to get executed in some system of record, either a new one or one that we are modernizing. And that to me is necessarily decentralized. We have a lot of industry partners who are building these solutions for the services. They've got to be able to do that. And a centralized, there are two things that struck me in Mike's comments. One is pooling of expertise. How do you do that? The Navy uses warfare centers as an example. We have specialized warfare centers for surface, undersurface, et cetera. I think AI may present some opportunities there for centralizing that kind of thing. And maybe they're affiliated with centers like that, cells that focus on it. But the other is in the process. The department is taking really seriously the quality of AI deployment. The department has promulgated 5 AI developmental principles, and ensuring that development adheres to those standards, and then that we adhere to the standards of effective employment and operation. That's not an everybody out for a pass problem, right? You want some degree of centralized governance, oversight, just maturity in process. And I like that notion of it's hybrid. Got to get the mix right. Probably will evolve over time.
And just to build on that, because you're right on the money. AI is different, right? When you brought up the ethics of AI, and the ability to trust that capability and technology is vital in where we're putting it, right? So building up that confidence, the leadership confidence, and our ability to deploy and scale is going to be paramount. So that centralized governance, management, validation is that centralized platform management is key.
That's all very interesting. We're running out of time quickly, unfortunately, and I want to close with a question on AI skills in the workforce. It's nothing new that the nation, especially in the federal government, is in fierce competition for tech talent. So I want to know, how does the DoD ensure it gets the AI skills it needs? Mike, let's go with you, and then close it out with Chris.
Yeah, it's a big problem everywhere. It was a problem we ran into in industry. It's a problem that we have today. I know what Chris is going to say, so I'll save that one. But our talent strategy in the Navy is basically to upskill. We're going to grow our talent. We have sailors and Marines that come into the force, and we are, we're prizing those AI skills and those development skills. We're putting certificate programs in place. We've got the Navy Community College, we've got the Naval Academy, we've got the Naval Postgraduate School, et cetera. And we are going to upskill and train our workforce so that we aren't competing with the commercial sector. You know, we're partnering with academia, we're partnering with, you know, small startup industry partners, so we can out-task certain things and help our workforce be trained by the best minds that there are in the world. So that's our key strategy. You know, and then I'll turn it over to Chris because I know what he's going to say.
Mike, and I know because you and I chatted a little bit before. My point of view on this, Billy, is the market is going to be frothy for frontline workers who can do data science and the affiliated development. That's just a reality. If you think operationally, what's the center of gravity here? Where does the services need to focus? One option that I would propose is around leadership of AI-enabled development. How do we equip leaders in system commands and program executive offices to give effective oversight and direction of AI-enabled capabilities? I think everything that Mike just said is righteous. We're going to bring military members in and equip them to operate in an AI-enabled environment. They may be able to participate in development, but that's going to be frothy. And you think of the challenge today, in a typical year, the Army recruiting mission is 80,000 soldiers, Navy is roughly 40,000. And it's a challenge to find what we want today. So this will increase, and I do think the services have some options in targeting specific kinds of functions and cultivating talent there so that we can execute aggressively and to standard in a way that makes everyone confident in the capabilities that emerge.
Mike Galbraith, Chris Whitlock, thank you both so much for your time today.
Glad to do it. Glad to do it. Mike, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Chris.
Take care, Billy.